I know I've been kind of lazy about updating my gardening videos this summer. Just things got out of hand. I took on too many projects. But I did shoot some videos, and what you're about to see is kind of a compilation of what footage I did take. And as scanned as it is, I think the basic gist of what I was trying to accomplish comes across. So here it is. Happy watching.
Okay, gardening fans, I'm almost sorry to report that it looks like the first edible radishes are going to come out of the square foot garden. Go ahead, honey. My lovely wife is picking this radish. It's a nice looking radish. And we'll do the taste test in just a moment. Meanwhile, back in the greenhouse, we have things not quite as far. We've got radishes here, but they're not really quite eaten size yet. You can see it's still kind of skinny. Now bear in mind that those square foot radishes are 4 days older, so we'll see what happens in 4 days, and then we'll have a final report. Now my lovely assistant will eat this one, and what do you think?
It's delicious.
Okay. She doesn't actually like radishes. That's the kind of inside joke here. And so now we have me eating this other half of the radish. It's not really hot. It almost tastes more like a daikon. Very crispy. It's a good radish, and I like it. And I'm looking forward to eating all those other radishes. Okay, see you next time.
And like clockwork, 4 days later, I have an edible radish in the aquaponics system. And it's not as big. However, previous year's radishes were bigger, while this year I've had some real problems with my aquaponics system. Mechanical problems, problems with the animals, but in all fairness, that is part of the thing with an aquaponics system. You have to maintain the animals and the mechanics, so we'll just continue our contest and get on with the next taste test.
Okay, and now my lovely assistant will eat her half of the radish.
That's good.
How does it compare to the soil garden, or the raised bed garden?
It's different.
In what way?
I don't know.
Okay, here, now you videotape me. And I've got my... It's hotter. Not as crisp.
But is it fishy?
She whispered. There might be a little overtone of fish in there, which is not the first time I've noticed that with aquaponic vegetables. Okay. Oh, but you know what? It's definitely more radishy. There's a much stronger flavor. There's no doubt about that.
It's the same kind?
It's the same seeds, same year, same packet of seeds.
Huh.
Yep.
Hello, gardening fans. I know it's been a long time. I've had some setbacks both in my aquaponics system and in my personal life getting too busy, and that has resulted in a dearth of updates and a bit of neglect of the gardens. But I do have some results, and I know some people have been kind of waiting for this. First of all, let's take a look at a bean plant here. My tallest square foot bean plant is about 28 inches tall and has no fruits. Meanwhile, in aquaponics land, I have some beans that were planted about a month later because some of the problems I was having in here. And our tallest plant is coming in at, take my word for it, it's about 43 inches tall and has some really nice looking fruits on it. The kale here, also planted a month later than the square foot, is really healthy. The tomatoes here are about 27 inches tall but are not setting fruit, possibly because the greenhouse is hotter, possibly because the bees don't get in as easily. Okay, so the kale and square foot garden is being utterly decimated by flea beetles. The tomatoes are fruiting very well, but they are really dried out and not healthy plants. They're about 40 inches tall. The aquaponic tomatoes were planted from seed about a month after these were brought home from the nursery when they were about a foot tall. So once again, the aquaponic growth is much, much faster. Okay, so what's going on? We have a lot of variables here. For one, I've had a lot of problems with my fish tank this year, and most of the animals have died. I'm not sure why. I checked the pH, the temperature, the ammonia. This is my third year doing this, and for some reason this year the animals are not thriving. So that means there's less fertilizer for the plants, and they're not growing as well. You know, compared to previous years, these grow beds should look like a jungle in here by now, but it's obviously comparatively very meager. I've also had a lot of mechanical parts of the 3-year-old system break and need replacement, and the problem is, for instance, if your timer breaks while you're at work, you come home and you have dried out grow beds, and sometimes you have dead animals. So the verdict here is that yes, things grow much, much faster in the aquaponics system than they do in soil, a lot faster. And that was especially true in the years when things were working better. As I keep mentioning, though, I had a lot of mechanical failures this year and animal failures, and because of that, the plants in here are about a month younger than their soil counterparts. When you consider that, the growth is a lot more impressive. However, the aquaponics system requires a certain amount of maintenance. You have to be willing to put time into fixing the machine, caring for the animals, and troubleshooting problems when they die. And if you're at all a compassionate person, it's just tragic when they die. So as far as the quality of the food, one young man asked me to do some taste tests, and that's another thing. You know, some of the vegetables in the aquaponics taste better, and some taste not as good. In my personal subjective opinion, the radishes taste better. The basil is just amazing. Beans are about the same. Cucumbers and tomatoes, on the other hand, I think they taste a lot better from the soil garden. But one thing I can say for sure is that the broccoli I grew in the aquaponic system had a little bit of a fishy taste, and I didn't really like that. The square foot garden has its ups and downs too. It's definitely less work. There are no mechanical parts to break, no animals die, but it is by no means trouble-free. This growing medium, Mel's Mix, it's really, really loose and friable, which is why it breathes so well. But that also means that water evaporates very quickly, especially here in the Colorado dry heat. So it seems to need watering really frequently. We just got back from vacation, incidentally, and as you can see, the plants are really suffering after not being watered for a few days. The zucchini plant is nearly dead, and hopefully I can bring it back to life. The tomatoes look like fall has set in. There's also a myth that a square foot garden doesn't get weeds. Folks, I get weeds. I get bunchweed, I get mallow, cottonwood, dandelion, and all manner of buggers in here. And I also have a really bad flea beetle infestation. I don't get bugs in the aquaponics system, but that's, you know, it's because it's in a greenhouse. It's not the aquaponics. And the flip side of that is I don't get pollinating insects either. You know, the tomatoes aren't setting fruit. That could be the heat. That could be the lack of bees. Okay, so before I summarize, I want to reiterate one last time what the point of these 3 years of videos has been. I am not an expert gardener. I don't have time to be an expert gardener. I'm a really, really busy guy who doesn't have time for all of his projects. So I don't have time to baby a garden. So the whole point of this experiment was that I wanted something I could just set up once that would require minimal time and maintenance from me and provide some homegrown food. So I wanted to get the most food possible from the fewest possible resources of time, material, effort, and energy.